All right, let's wrap this up so we can get our pretty outfit and Tammy. Full auto is love, full auto is life.
Hello there.
What up, Slingster? How's work? Good so far? Nice. Good to hear. Good to hear. Google sleepy. That's my constant state of being. As I rip one of the fattest yawns. Are you ready for the last epoch update on the 9th? Super addicted to Dark and Darker right now. That's fair. I mean, I'm not too surprised. You were enjoying. You had a couple of those Tarkov runs, right? And this is like a nice little fresh take on game style. If they play Sekiro for a week, rip. Well, I mean, easy. See, you play Sekiro this next week, and then boom, you're free for last epoch on the following week. You just have to miss out on the first Descendant on the 2nd of July. We'll see. Yeah, I need to play Dark and Darker. Honestly, like I want to try it out. Uh, but I've been like wrapped up playing like other games. It's just one of those cases where it's like I want to play the game, but I want to play other games more. Kind of deal. But like it's definitely on my like I have it installed. It's on my list of if I ever get like in a mood I don't want to play anything I have, I'll play that kind of thing. Loving honestly, I've been this addicted to games since first season played PoE. That's good. That's good to hear. Yeah, I remember it being really popular when it first came out. But people said that it felt really nice to play. Have you played all the classes yet, or are you just sticking with that spell casting one that you've been doing? Played the first alpha weekend, didn't care for it back then. They got rid of the battle royale type, right? Oh, did they? Interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, because all the videos I'd ever seen of it always had the battle royale ring that kind of like forced you into stuff. Which, to be fair, on one hand, I kind of understand the reasoning behind it, but like, especially some of the videos I used to watch, like the terrain just wasn't good for that sort of like system. It always had really shitty endpoints. They made Apex end rings look like, I don't know, fucking beautiful, well crafted positions. Put a bit of fighter and bard as well. Warlock is still your main. That's good. And I want to try. I want to fuck around on barbarian. Just go bonk people. Yeah, yeah. Because I remember watching some videos on it, and I think like that was one of the things that kind of like turned me off the most. Aside from the fact that I'm not generally a very big fan of like the Tarkov style of stuff, but it's like just seeing those like end rings. I was like, bro, you're just fucked. Like even looking at it, I was like, why would you even play melee? Because you know, if you get like a ranged person and like a spot that you can't get to because of the ring, like you're just shit out of luck. I tried Druid next. Oh yeah, Druid was one I wanted to try too. That one sounded interesting because I had like shape shifting, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember I was looking at the classes again the other day, and I was really curious about it. Yeah, some of their takes on some of the classes seem pretty interesting. That was kind of the big thing that caught my attention. But I really wanted to try it out. It's just yeah, it's like it's just I have so many games that I want to play right now. Cause like even just like not even looking at my backlog, right? So this Tuesday is the first Ascendant drops, which to be honest, I don't foresee myself playing that game for too long. It's like a mix, or at least like the betas that I played was like a mix between Warframe and Destiny 2. Uh, more towards Warframe than Destiny 2, at least in what was like available for gameplay loop. Uh, but I still want to try it, especially on release, to see if it's decent enough. Then after that, it literally the week after is the last Epoch update, which I really want to try because it looked pretty interesting. And then we have like, isn't PoE supposed to have like their new league start at some point in July, like late July or whatever? And then that's not even considering all the backlog that I have for games that I've been trying to work through. Like it is, it'll be rough. Got a lot of things on my hands, and I'm just like, do with those. And then yeah, like July, like in and of itself, just has so many games wrapped in it that I don't even have to pay for. They either own or they're free. Like, but And then August is like my birthday month, which I'm probably just gonna play like through my backlog and whatever. And then like September has Thrones and Liberty, which I'm going to try out, but I don't have. I'm like not very optimistic that I'll like the game, but I'll at least try it out. Which and then Space Marine 2, which I have pretty high hopes for. Like it looks like it'll be really good. And then hopefully there'll be some sales. I can get like Aiden Chronicles and stuff like that. Like there's a at least for the next couple of months, like there's a decent amount of stuff that I've been like looking forward to coming out. Either with like new updates or just releasing, like just I just got so much shit to do. Which feels really weird because like 2024 I felt like was the opposite. I felt like I was waiting for games to play and then it was just like kind of just doing the same stuff over and over again. But yeah. Path of Exile, SD Park, Dark and Darker, gotcha games. A bit of Apex, yeah. And then yeah, I gotta sprinkle in Apex there too. Like I need to like I think like probably probably not the first week. Well no, actually I think it'd have to be. Yeah, it's like the week for Last Epoch's like drop. I'll probably have to play Last Epoch like during this time bracket because I think I'm gonna play Apex during the day so I can grind out the BP missions so I can at least get the reactives and stuff. I'm like a little under halfway through it, so all right. So thanks for stopping by. Well, the rest of the work goes good. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, it's gonna be. This year seems pretty good for games, at least for the next couple months. So, with new stuff in the backlog, I'm definitely sitting pretty. Though I also have to find a point to like be able to slide in some self-learning stuff that I want to do. Bum, bum. Oh, I wonder what Halloween character. So I think I'm just gonna hollow like spark on probably the flash color. I don't remember how many. It's just gonna be. Is it one or two? I think it's just the one. Oh no, I'll just have to wait and see how it pans out, and then just go on a like spark on a flash color for Zeta, so that way I can at least have her my fire set up, and hopefully get some Halloween characters along the way. Especially like Halloween Lich would be nice. Stop dodging, you sack of garbage, bro. Like, I'm telling you, if it wasn't for that dodge mechanic, that's an easy 3-turn fight. I really hope that doesn't become like a constant in all the guild wars from now on. Such an annoying mechanic they put in. I do find it interesting how swapping her for Dark Angel Olivia was worse. Like I would have thought that it would have been better. Though I guess like Dark Angel Olivia might not have been doing as much damage. Wait, did I saw? Yeah, I saw the Orchid for it. I don't fucking know. What's up, Zephyr? How's it going? He said lost a lot in Startle. Gotcha. The banner rotate? Who are you pulling for? Oh, after this one, I need to check if it's Firefly right now. That's easy. Just go ask Yuna if you could borrow some of her luck. Didn't she like get it in like 2 10 pulls? Just be like, you know, the what a luck. So be careful. She's more like a luck vampire than she is a luck gifter. You got her, but it cost you everything because you lost a 50-50. Is it worth it? Was it worth it, Zeffy? Was it worth it losing everything? Very much so. Let me take this. That's a W. Can't get the. Who? I need a name, Zeffy. Well, apparently it's Yun Lee. You're close. Why isn't she in armor though? Bro. What is this? What is this nonsense? Oh, no, it's not. She's not in armor and she doesn't have like thigh high boots like Beto. I am angry. Big sword go swing though. That's no. We need more than that, Zippy. Zippy, we need standards. Right? Like if you're swinging a big old sword, you need muscles. You need the muscles, man. Where's the raging six pack? Where's the armor at? Goodness gracious. We have standards in this house, Zephy. I saw a rape here. Fair. Fair. Mr. Fencing Duelist. Acceptable. We have standards though, bro. I'm tired of all these games being like, here's this petite little cutesy girl who swings a claymore the size of like a 6'8", 300-pound man. And you're just like, brother, that is not gonna like fucking give her some fucking muscles. On God. Not even asking for too much. I swear Mikhail's like allergic from putting muscles on their characters. Never forget the tragedy that was Ito's model. Look what they did to my boy. Okay, Wuwa better not do the same thing. Wuwa needs to just give a female character who uses a broadsword, that has a playstyle that I like, that's built like the female construction worker. And then I'll be content with life. I don't think they gave her like abs, but I think she has like kind of like the toned side cuts that you see. Like she's got like the core shape, I guess. Though to be honest, the what is it? The shark girl, the maid shark girl. I like her weapon. Her weapon was kind of cool. All I need on my team is just the shark trick and the bear, and that's it. Oh shit, that comes out next week. I didn't realize it was that close. I thought it was later in the year. Well, I guess what it literally comes out like next Thursday. I think it plays on PC. If it plays on PC, I'll give it a try. I do like a lot of the. I mean, I don't know how I feel about the combat. I guess we'll have to see what the combat and gameplay loop is like for Triple Z. But like the character designs are pretty good. They had a lot of really good ones for Zen. I wish I don't know. I wish there was another like gacha game that I could play in like my browser that I enjoyed, like Granblue that's available to the West. I know in Japan, I'm saying there's a website that has like a bunch of games that are like browser based, but like at least last time I looked into it, like all of it was like in Japanese, and it was too much of a pain. I didn't feel like dealing with it, and then like most of the games I looked at didn't really interest me all that much. I don't know. I want like another game that I can just like kind of just chill and like build a team and stuff like that. Like I need another game that when I don't really feel like doing anything is kind of as hands off as this is. Star Rail's combat's kind of hands off, but my team's not built enough to full auto things, and what should we call it? I still have to actually like actively move my character, and there's like it's not as like, and I can't do other stuff. Like usually when I play Granblue, I'm like looking researching other stuff over here. Makes it easy because it's pretty hands off when I full auto. But yeah. Mm. Also, I need to find. Fuck, I need to see if there's like work I can do that's work from home. Because Granblue is like a really nice game if you have something that you can do like something on the side. I have to look into that again. Last time I looked into it, I didn't have too much luck, but we'll see. See, maybe I can get lucky this time around. Finding the app in browsers to download the old JP Gacha, but finding out they shut down. Or yeah, yeah. That was me. Like yesterday, I was remembering about that. There was a old like Gacha game that they had released a global version. It's called Blood Brothers, and I really liked the first one, but it got shut down. Like the global version got shut down, and then I think the JP version got shut down later. But I like I don't know. It was kind of a pain to play because they were really stingy on like stamina, so you couldn't really play for too long without like swiping. But it was just like I don't know. I liked it, and apparently I'm not the only one because when I was looking like yesterday on stream when I was talking about it, there was a lot of people on the Reddit's like recently, like I'm talking like in the last couple months, asking if like anybody's found like another like game that plays like it with like the same kind of like art style and stuff. And then through that, I found out that there was another game by that company that had a very similar playstyle, but was more like pixel graphics. That apparently, I don't know how, but there's some people who have like a free private server version of it running. I'm debating whether or not I want to like try playing that. But at the same point, it was a game that I didn't play too much, like when it was out and about. So I don't know if I want to spend time doing that or spend time figuring out how to set up the stuff to do the Monster Hunter Frontier private servers. As Monster Hunter Frontier, it's got some pretty interesting stuff to try. I'm curious. There was another one that I've, but like, cause there's like a couple gotcha games that sometimes I play. Where so like there was one I think it was like Dawn of Dragons or something like that. That the first time I played it, uh, I don't know what it was called like that. It's something of that that sort of yeah Dawn of Dragons. Uh, I think I like the first time I played it was like on Facebook, and then I found out that it was like it was a it had like an actual standalone mobile version. It had a somewhat interesting like gameplay loop to it. The art was kind of nice, and it had like events where you could get like weapons and upgrades and stuff like that. That's some pretty interesting stuff. But it was really like nice and simple to play. But it's just like it was kind of the same issue I had with like Blood Brothers, where like the stamina system was pretty shit. Like I stopped playing it, but then every once in a while I'd want to go pick it up and I'd try it again. And then there's I think like Knights and Dragons was another one that that one was like that one's kind of weird. Like to be that's actually the gotcha game I spent money on. I didn't spend like a shit ton, but I did I definitely I spent a decent amount on that game to be honest. I was probably spending like 50 to 100 bucks like every other month on it. Well, not every other month. I think like every like 3 to 4 months, I'd like drop like 50 to 100 bucks depending on how I was doing. Was the game good enough to like spend that much money? I honestly wouldn't say so, but like some of the armor designs are pretty cool, and it was really hard to get some of them without like spending money. And then some of the events were kind of like hard to do without like spend swiping for refills. I think for the most part, it's just because like Grand Blue Fantasy like spoils players a lot when it comes to like the stamina. Like the stamina, like in Grand Blue Fantasy, if they got rid of like the stamina system, like where you spent stamina, you literally wouldn't notice if you're someone who's played for a long time because it's a non-issue. Like they hand out so many resources for stamina that it's a non-issue that they ever got rid of it. I mean, it's the main reason why events nowadays like they don't take stamina. They used to, but they don't really anymore. Stamina is more just to calculate like how much like experience you'll get from it for the most part, but it's just like, ugh, it's so annoying. It is kind of sad though to like enjoy these types of games and then kind of be on the side where we're kind of at the whim of companies about whether or not we get to try like all of them or not. Because most of I mean, like let's be honest, most of the companies that make like a majority of the gotcha games are Asian. There's a decent amount. There's a well, I don't know. I'd say decent. There's definitely a couple of them that are European based, and I think there's like a handful like American based companies. And I mean like gotcha games that are like worth playing and that aren't just like stupid shitty cash grabs that really don't work. And it's just like so it's like kind of just at the whim. It's like it's well, it's the equivalent of you like playing Nintendo also. There's so many games that just don't make it to the West for Nintendo because they just don't get localization rights for multitudes of reasons. Most of the times being because of copyright, believe it or not. There's a couple of like because there's a couple of games that if you go to like not necessarily like um Japan, but if you go to like Vietnam or like Korea and stuff like that, like the Southeast Asian countries, they'll have them like translated in, like in with English versions. It's just that they can't legally sell them in like the States because copyright problems, stuff like that. But they're fully localized with like good quality English too. Like I remember when I first got the Switch, I was like looking up a bunch of. I had a couple of YouTube channels I would watch, like people talk about games you could get if you could make it over there, or had somebody who was go over there and like send it back to you, and then it was just like, bruh. Like there was a lot of like SD Gundam games that you could get if you were over there that'd be fully localized. There was a couple of like I think like Dragon Quest Monsters or like Dragon Quest Joker, I think is what it's called over there. Like it's basically like Dragon Quest versions of Pokemon. We got it. We got the DS version once for one of them. I think it was like the fourth or fifth one in the line, but it's a pretty like decent sized franchise over there, or like offshoot, I guess you could say. And like you could get a couple of them, not a couple, a decent amount of them over there for pretty good prices and fully in English. And it was just like copyright's important, but sometimes you know it kind of like robs us, robs us of greatness. But yeah, speaking of, there's a couple Dragon Quest games I want to get. Bring over to the next gen console, like my stuff, like Bravely Default, Radiant Historia on Switch. Yeah, the caveat with some of that is sometimes it's the cost expense of like basically having to rebuild the game, which I think is in part due to how shit the Switch architecture is. Because like I feel like there's a lot of games from the DS that you could like kind of move over to the Switch and they wouldn't be too bad. Like for instance, Bravely Default, right? Like there's no way you wouldn't be able to kind of like repurpose the menus to kind of like move that over because the you know the lower screen wasn't really like it's not like that big of a deal to have the two screens set up. Meanwhile, there's what is it? Liquid Avalon, I think it was. Okay. Switch kind of do it's all because of the architecture. Like from what I've understood from trying to remember the name of this game. I'll get on that later. But there's a from what I understand from a lot of companies, especially ones like for instance, Aiden Chronicles was supposed to release on the Switch. That was their initial plan. But they were planning to release on PC and the Switch. And then I think they were later gonna do like console releases. And during their Kickstarter thing, they offered refunds because they were like, look, we cannot do a Switch port because it's just too unwieldy. Like it's too unwieldy, and the amount of like funding like the amount of money we would need to be able to do that, because you basically have to like rebuild the game from scratch to make it run on the Switch. Like they're just like it's just not possible. Begging. They honestly, they just need to, like, I don't know why they did that, because that's definitely a choice on their end. I don't know if it's because of their in-house engines for their like exclusive titles or like what, but it's just like I don't know. It's one of the major downsides to a lot of Japanese companies. I remember watching a documentary on it that a lot of like Western companies are hesitant to deal with Japanese companies because since Japanese culture is so steeped in traditionalism, they tend to be kind of slow on adapting to new things, and it has to go through 20, 30 different links in the chain of command before it can get to anybody who can actually make a decision on it. So it's just a really convoluted process of shit they have to go through. And it's like, I think part of that has to deal with Nintendo. I think also thinks that they're still like top dog in the industry when even at this point, Sony isn't even top dog in the industry anymore, which is why Sony's trying to like take a piece of the PC pie. That's the main reason they're trying to uh, do the whole Sony login thing for the games they're porting to the PC. It's because they're trying to like squeeze into that market now because they've come to realize that especially if they want like money globally, like you cannot neglect PC. You have to look into PC. They were able to neglect it for a while because a lot of people would use consoles even overseas. And in Japan, it's more likely for a family to own a console or an individual to own a console than it is to own a PC because one, it's cheaper, and two, over there they have a lot of PC and internet cafes. So why spend so much money on getting a solid PC when you can just spend less to go to an internet cafe and use theirs without having to worry about maintenance and extra fees and stuff like that. But I think that like they've slowly realized that they kind of have to cut into that market or else they're not going to see any growth anymore without it. But like I don't know, like really what held the Switch back is that it wasn't really easy to port games over to it. There's still a lot of companies that did, right? Like Dead Cells, Moonlighter. You can play with the Witcher series. Fucking Apex is on the Switch for some godforsaken reason. Like, there's still plenty of companies that put in the time and the effort for it, but there's also plenty of companies that just they looked at it and they're like, "Nah, we're good," even though it probably would have brought them some money. And I think it's part of the reason why like a lot of the companies that aren't directly tied to Nintendo are also reaching out to do other stuff, right? Like Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter went from being a Sony exclusive to being a Nintendo exclusive to then being available on all platforms, basically, right? Because it went from being on the PlayStation to then being on the PlayStation Portable for a bunch of games. Then it went to the Nintendo DS, and then to the Wii, and then after the Wii, it went to you know, we got Monster Hunter World. Well, it went to the Switch because you had Monster Hunter like Cross and Monster Hunter Double Cross, otherwise known as Generations, and then it went to World, which and then the biggest like I'd say the biggest indicator of that is the fact that one, they're pushing out more of their mobile games, and two, they released Monster Hunter Stories 1 and 2 to PC, which are both games that it's like the setup for those games are very like they're good for the Switch. They're not very intensive. They're turn based. You can play them on the go. They have like uh you know stuff that you can do in short bursts of grinding here and there while you're getting from point A to point B. But they still release them on PC because they understand that there's a market there with a lot of money. And it's just like I think the JP companies are slowly starting to realize that they just can't neglect it. I mean, the fighting ones have realized that forever ago. That's why Street Fighter and Tekken, you know, that's why they're on PC. They've been on PC for I think what like 2, 3 of the generations now, because they understand that that's a market. That's a pretty sizable market there, and it's just like it's I guess it's time. You could say it's time for them to wake up, because the problem is like regardless of how people feel about it, Nintendo single-handedly like saved the gaming. Like that's not something you can take away from them. Like gaming like almost died as a business if it wasn't for Nintendo. Like they basically saved it kept it afloat single handedly, which then allowed for the rest of what we have to come into fruition. But it gaming almost went under. Like there's a couple documentaries on it, and they had such a chokehold on the handheld system, right? You have the Game Boy Color, the Game Boy Advance, the Game Boy Advance SP, the Nintendo DS, the Nintendo DS SP, I think is what it's called. Then it was like the Nintendo 3DS, and then, like they just had a chokehold on it. And then yeah, Nintendo DSi, and it's just like, what did you have in like for competition? The PSP. Okay, another Japanese company. That's not a real competition. And I mean, like the PSP, really, I think like one of the only real games that people remember from the PSP era is I think it's one of the Persona games and Monster Hunter predominantly. At least those are the ones I can think of. I know there was a PSP exclusive God of War game. Why do I know this? Because the PSP I owned was the special version that came with a different color. That came with the game. Uh, it was one of the only God of War games at the time that I owned that I played. So you know, but like they dominated that market. But the problem is now they can't have a chokehold on the handheld market anymore. Why? Because phones exist, smartphones exist. Like they can't compete with smartphones for availability. Which is why I think the Switch was such a smart change, right? It's like, well, what's the step up in still being able to do your niche, which is be handheld, but also kind of like do something else? Do a handheld that you can play on console. Now, if they could kind of figure out like the upscaling a little better and the performance and like make it easier for companies to port their games over, like they have a pretty solid go there at have being able to stabilize better than uh the better than like PlayStation. Because like Xbox, like the way they stabilized was making the Game Pass, and making it usable for both console and PC. That's how they stabilize. That's how they make more money because it incentivizes you having both. Because there's games, I think there's still games on the Game Pass you can only play on Xbox. So like it doesn't have a PC version, even though I don't think it's very many because Microsoft has said that if it's on the Xbox, it's going to be ported to the PC because I mean it's Microsoft. We're on 3DS and people that was kind of bonkers to have the 3D handheld. Get that little slider. Whoop 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 whoop. You're like, look at the definition. Sheesh. Yeah, 3DS is it's probably pretty cemented into the retro console. It was released in 2011. It's 13 years old for the very first one, launched in Japan. Oh, and then in Europe, and then this, yeah, no, 2011. February for Japan, March e, for EU and the States. In a corner, don't mind you. Look, Zephy, at least, well, you might have. I don't know. I once visited a museum when I was in high school. I think I was about to graduate high school. And the minivan I grew up in was in the museum alongside with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics I read with my brothers, but it gets rough getting old. Especially because nowadays, like, things turn into, like, classics, like, so much faster. Like when I was growing up, if something wasn't like 30, 40 years old, it wasn't classic. Now, if something's like 10 years old, they're like classic, retro. Fucking putting on a fucking radio station, they're like, now we hit you with the classic from 2010. And you're like, fuck it, that was 14 years ago. The fuck you mean classics, bro? Let's go, we're fancy. I gotta put the skin on. This skin is so fucking nice. Oh man, I am not looking forward to how expensive it's gonna be to like stage it up. Oh, it's even got its own separate category. That's kind of sick. I'm not gonna lie. I feel a little bad for kids nowadays. Shit's changed so much that there's a lot of stuff that like back in my day I was like we had some fun. Y'all fuckers y'all can't do half the shit we got away with. Some good shit back in the day. You can barely see him because Orchid's fucking puppet is enormous. I should swap her with a Magus. Honestly, the worst part about getting older is when you look at prices and you're like, holy fuck, this shit's so expensive. And you're like, I used to be able to get that for like $10. Now it's like 30. Get this stupid fucking dodge bullshit. If it wasn't for the dodge, it's a guaranteed 3-turn kill. It's so annoying. They honestly need to stop putting like dodge as a fucking mechanic. At least for like level 90 and 95. Like get that shit out of there. Leave that shit for like level 100, 150. Bro, look at this skin. It looks so good. Oh shit. My about sure his name, like how do they live? Yeah. Yep. A bunch of stupid shit. We used to do when I was so it was like senior year of high school. Don't do this. But you were we would go fishing and drinking. And I mean obviously we're seniors in high school. Underage drinking, don't do it. We were drinking water. That's what we were doing while we were fishing. But like I didn't have like the hunting fishing certificate that you're supposed to. But in the state that I was in, one person could have 3 rods technically, like at the same time. And so what we did is we only brought enough fishing rods for one of each. And whenever if there's ever like a fishing game warden that came over and they asked about it, we had like a couple of guys that they had their paperwork and they'd be like, oh yeah, no, that's all their stuff. We're just here to chill. We were all fishing. Stuff like that. Like it was it's tisk. Don't do that. Most of the other stories I'm not gonna say on it. I don't need to leave records of those. But yeah, it's there's there's a lot of stuff. It's also like, I mean, in one way, like something that's like that's funny is like when a game comes out, like it's so hard when you've played games for as long as I've had, because like my parents, like I had games since I was pretty young. Like due to growing up in like the military, we had access to like getting stuff for like a slightly cheaper, and my mom was really good at budgeting, and she'd try her best to get stuff right. Like we really wanted a console or something like Game Boy Advance. I remember when the Game Boy Advance was gonna come out, I was like over the fucking moon for it, and I had all sorts of games for that. Like, did I have every single game that I wanted for that? No, not really, but I had plenty, right? Like I had Treasure Planet, bro. Y'all don't know about that Treasure Planet Game Boy Advance game. That was my jam. Play Dragon Ball Z. There's a Game Boy Advance Dynasty Warrior. That shit was janky as fuck, but it was fun as hell. I think to this day, I still think that's one of my favorite Dynasty Warrior games I ever played. Was the one on the Game Boy Advance. It was so dumb, all pixelated and shit. Still fun as shit. Played the crap out of that. And there was a lot of like little niche like just random niche like Game Boy games that like people wouldn't like buy for a lot, but we had stuff like KB Toys and like all these like little shops that would sell like you know they would buy like the surplus inventory from other stuff for games that really didn't sell very well, and then they'd sell them for like 50% off, 75% off. You go walk out with a lot of stuff. You don't get shit like that much anymore. And it's hard to like, it's hard to get excited for some games because it's like it's hard for a game to be original because so many ideas have been done, right? And there's definitely been games that I've played that I've seen, and I'm like, oh, I've played something like that, and it's a very like, you know, and people are like, oh shit, this is so new, and I'm like, it's only new because you only played mainstream games. Anybody who's like gamed a lot and played like more niche games, like the amount of game systems you've been exposed to, like it's hard for like newer games to come out and you just be like, oh wow, this is actually new. You just look at it, you're like, oh, that reminds me of that one game that nobody else has ever played but me, and stuff like that. It's just like I didn't like the Metroid games personally. I have no idea what the hell it's called. I'm pretty sure if I find it, I have half a mind to look for my Nintendo DS, 3DS, and Game Boy Advance games and just make a list and then just like get emulators and ROMs and play them for the games I own. Because like, well, Game Boy Advance, like fucking I'm trying to get my punk ass there that tiny ass fucking screen, bro. And my 3DS, I like unplug it for like 2 seconds, it like the battery dies. But like, there's so many games that I wish would get ported over. Like there's this game, I don't know what it's called. Basically, it was on the DS, and the way it worked was that you're a kid and you had this book, but it was a book that it was kind of like basically the way it worked is like the some shit about the world's getting erased or some stupid shit like that. But like you could take this book and you would copy things, and then like you say you copied like an iron, like a copper sword, and then you copied iron. You could then turn the copper sword into an iron sword from the book, and then like summon out an iron sword. Like I had like concepts like that are really cool. You could change the properties of things and stuff like that with the book within reason. You had to like as you got through the story, you got more like stronger, and you could change more stuff to be more advanced. And it was a really interesting idea, which at least in the West I haven't really seen another game like that. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe one of the Atelier games were like that, but this is crazy. College gaming stuff when you were younger. Remember games like Spyro and Jank Superman game on the Xbox? Too young to know better, bro. I I don't know. I always finished all my games. It's wild. It's always funny to me though when people talk about like with people that are younger. They're just like when the Spyro and the Crash Bandicoot remakes came out, And there's people been like, holy, these games are crazy. They're so good. And I'm sitting here like, y'all don't know. You don't know. Those games were the best. Y'all thought we were talking like, y'all were like, oh, rose tinted glasses. And then they give you the same game just with shinier graphics. And you guys are like, oh my God, this game. And they're like, that effect on them old game names, bro. Kids these days don't know about that twisted metal. Oh, it's so good. I can those old school Tony Hawk Pro Skater games, which I had one for the Game Boy Advance. That was also janky as shit. I still played the crap out of it. I still remember the old demo discs that you used to get for the PlayStation and some of the magazines, and sometimes the stores would give them away. So you could try out the games, so then come back and buy like the full game. Like, oh, those were the days. Those were the days. Bro, I tried to get my mom to play the original Spyro once, like after I'd beaten it like 3 times, and like I was like, "Hey, mom, you should try out Spyro," because she always thought the dragon was cute. She could not get out of the tutorial area for some weird reason. Her brain couldn't like put hit jump, push like joystick forward. Right? She would do one or the other. She would hit jump or she would push the joystick, and so Spyro would either jump in place or walk into the water and die. And mom would be like, how you got play the game? It's so hard. I'm like, mom, you literally just joystick forward, hit the button. That's it. That's it. It cracks me up to this day. She likes to bring it up. Like she finds it funny. She'll bring it up because she finds it funny. Oh, bro, Hamtaro? Bro, I had the Hamtaro Summer Games on fucking Game Boy Advance. That game was the shit. If you never played it, oh, bro, waking up in the morning to watch Hamtaro on the weekends, peak, peak. I don't give a shit what anybody says. Hamtaro is a way of life. If you've never seen the anime, you suck. Go watch it. If you don't like it, don't talk to me. You don't exist. Oh, it was such a good game. Such a good game. Yeah, Hamtaro Ham games, bro. Getting nostalgic, dog. Games are so good. Oh, those games are so good. The sheer amount of like just niche games I played on the Game Boy Advance and the GameCube, too many to fucking count, bro. Everybody else was like playing like Pokemon or Final Fantasy on their Game Boy Advances and then their GameCubes and shit. I'm over here, I'm like, nah, dog. Give me the Hamtaros, baby. Oh, so good. Play racing sim when you got a wheel and shifter since your parents didn't play with us when you were younger. You didn't want to race once, so you refused to touch any games. That sounds about right. My dad had this thing recently where he tried to get into like video games again. He's tried a couple of times. His brain just ain't wired for it. And he had this like this. He bought a Switch. I think he returned it in like a week. He bought a uh uh what should we call it? He bought one of the Xbox like Pro controllers, like the well, not the super expensive, but one of the fancier ones, to play this like tank game that was free. And like uh he couldn't he had done the tutorial, and I'm walking and I walked downstairs to get water, and my dad's like in Spanish, because he basically only really speaks Spanish in the house. He's just like, "Oi, help me how to like figure out how to do this." I'm like, I figure out how to do what? And I see him like struggling to drive this tank, and I like it's a game I've never played, mind you. I didn't even know the game existed. And he hands me the controller, and like in 30 seconds, I like kill the 4 tanks that he was trying to figure out how. He spent like 10 minutes trying to figure out how to do it, and he's like how'd you do that? I was like, I pushed the buttons. I figured out what they did, and then I killed all the tanks. What do you mean? This button is for aiming. This button's for shooting. This button you go forward and back. This button you turn to aim. I gave it to him. I spent like 15 minutes trying to teach him how to play that game. He was all right by the time, like, it was manageable. Like, he could kill a tank by the time I left. But then, like, I think like 2 days after that, he returned the controller. My dad only really like plays dominoes and Bristol on the computer. That's all he's got. Mom has this like free to play game that she has on her computer where it has like one of those games where it has like multiple different types of games, like, you know, find the shit in the picture, Bejeweled, some other shenanigans or whatever. I don't know, whatever. My parents game in their own way, so it's fine. Though my mom started doing gamer talk. Oh, like every once in a while, she's like, "This game and this shit." She'll be complaining like a gamer does. I look at her, I'm like, "I'm so proud of you. I raised you well. Look at her go." She'd be like, "These piece of shit developers." I was like, "She's learning. She's learning." Dad took his 1W, said, "Yep, retiring a champ. That's what you gotta do. That's what you gotta do. You know, you don't give him a chance to come back." I will say though, sometimes I get a little irked when I look at my dad. Cause like, so my brother has like two daughters, right? And like, my dad will teach him how to play games. And like, we played dominoes a lot growing up when I was a kid. Cause it's like, to be honest, the way that like chess and checkers are kind of like a pastime, like, you know, like in the parks and like the states or whatever, in some of the states, dominoes is like a national pastime for Puerto Ricans. It's like almost every single household has at least like a set of dominoes. I mean, fucking, we have a box of dominoes next to the TV downstairs, even though we don't really play too much because we don't really have a table. But it's just like, he was teaching my oldest niece how to play dominoes, and like he was being really easygoing with it. Mind you, my father can beat like the grandmaster level domino like AI, which is basically borderline cheating on the computer. Like, he's pretty good at it. He plays a lot of it, and there's there's like a element of randomness to it, but there's also like plenty of stuff you can do to mitigate the randomness. And I was just like, and I was looking, and I was like, and he lost like 3 times. I was like, I looked at him. I was like, you have to be kidding me, because when he was teaching me and my brother how to play, we were getting the shit kicked out of us every day of the week. Didn't matter. Fucking didn't matter what game we were learning from him. He was like, you gonna learn today. So like, so I sat down and I was like, all right, I'll play. Plap, 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 plap. Boom, dominoes. I win. My niece had like half of her, like, I think like half her hand left. My dad was just looking at me like, really? Really? I'm like, I'm just teaching her the way you taught me. Not to mention, my nieces get a little bit too big of an ego when you let them win, because they think they're hot shit, and then it's like, all right, buddy, sit down. Let me show you how we actually play. When I went to go visit a cousin of mine a while back, that's what happened with his kid, because he had like 3 boys, and the oldest one, like, was playing Uno with me and his wife, and we were playing with the oldest kid, and like me and his wife were just taking it easy, just doing whatever, just messing around, you know, because it was just a family get together. And I think the kid won twice, and he's like, "Man, you two are really bad at this game. Must be because you're so old." Woo, sheesh. Little boy did not stand a chance the next game. I won with Uno. His mom had 1 card left. He had like half the deck in his hand. We were like, little boy, you don't know. You don't know. Yeah, they get raised too easy these days. Gotta sit them down a little bit. Like, if we hit him with every skip turn, go back other way, draw 4 cards, draw 2 cards, change color, like, hit him with every single trick in the book. Kid was crying by the time we were done with him. I'm just like, oh, that'll teach you. Sip my beer. It's like every time I see those memes on YouTube of like, you know, when you're like younger sibling or like niece or nephew act up, and then you see the guy be like, all right, teach him a lesson. I'm like, yep, that's me. Except usually I just skip straight to the teach a lesson part sometimes. Most of the times I don't feel very charitable. That's like the weird part of my head, right? Like if I'm watching you play a game and you ask me for advice, I'll teach you like baby steps. But if it's a game where like in order to teach you have to play against you, you're probably gonna get beat up. Like my brother's wife like didn't really play games growing up. Uh and so I think they were married at the time. There was one time like she was curious about the game I was playing and I was practicing Tekken on the Xbox. And she's like, "Oh, can I play it?" I was like, "Sure, like I'll teach you. It's not gonna be pretty though." And she's like, "Oh, it'll be fine." I rolling death cradled her 3 times in a row. No guilt, no remorse. Still probably one of my favorite memories to this day. My brother just was standing there shaking his head because he knew what was going to happen. Because that's what my brother taught me. My brother, I played Tekken with my brother when I was younger. That was the first time I played Tekken. He beat the absolute shit out of me with fucking Kazuya. Even though, to be fair, at that time, if I knew how to do the buffer inputs for rolling Death Cradle, he wouldn't have been able to beat me as soon as I grabbed him because he doesn't know the breakouts. But no remorse. Don't teach me how to. Don't tell me to teach the youngins how to play a game if they're not ready to cry. I don't know. I guess that's part of the thing nowadays, right? It takes blood, sweat, and tears. That's if you can't tell the difference, if you can tell the difference between your sweat and your tears, you're not trying hard enough. You're not learning hard enough. Yeah, I guess that's like I think that's like part of the reason why there's always such a argument between some of the and even to be fair, it's not even like a generational thing because a lot of like older people also like are fine with it and some are and some aren't. But it's like the argument about like the participation like awards and shit. There was one time like I'm not someone who likes participation awards. Like if I don't do good enough in like a competition, don't give me shit. I don't care. Like I know I did bad. I don't need a fucking participation award. I remember there was one time I did a competition and I did poorly. Like I lost in the first match, and they gave me a trophy. And I looked at mom and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And she's like, "Participation award." I'm like, "Get this piece of shit away from me." And it was an actual trophy. Like it wasn't like a little ribbon or anything. It was I mean, it was a plastic trophy, but it was like a good like foot tall. Like, you know, it was a decent sized trophy. I was like, "Get this shit away from me, mom." Like, she just laughed. I was like, "What the fuck am I supposed to do with it?" Like, "Oh, you got your ass whipped. Congratulations." Like, don't give me this shit. Ugh. It was like I'm in the camp that it's like if you ain't top three, like basically if you're the way your scoring system works, if someone doesn't do well, they just don't do well. You just go better luck next time. Because like I don't know, to me it's like a bit of a slap in the face. Like I'd rather someone tell me I'm dog shit when I'm dog shit than to just be like, "Oh well, you know you were good. It's just everybody else was better." Because I mean, in some cases that's true. It's not like that's always like not the case. Where you know you're good, but like maybe the competition you entered a little above your like skill grade. Or sometimes like you are shit, and you need to know your shit because that's how you improve. If you don't know you suck, how are you supposed to get better? So, yeah, so then I never did like it was like a wrestling competition or some shit. It wasn't a gaming one either. Because I used to go to like little tournaments, little local tournaments and arcade games, and all those fuckers were cutthroat. You sucked, and they let you know. They were just like, damn, I didn't know that. I can't even say half the shit. Oh, good times, good times. But yeah, it's more of a personal thing. It's like I don't really care for it. And it's not even like a. I don't even feel like it's an ego thing. It's just like, oh, bro, just don't give me anything, right? Like, the only thing I need you to give me is if there's a tournament of people my skill level, let me know. I'll show up, and then I'll see if I can like fuck some people up. Because it's always hard when you're like new at something, right? And then like when you're new, and then it's the environment you're in doesn't really have a tournament for new players, right? It just has a tournament where everybody shows up. It's hard. It's hard to like do well, and it can suck. But I mean, the point of the matter is if that's how the sphere of influence is, that's how it is, right? Like fighting games, like now it's not too bad, but it's just like fighting games when I was growing up, like the tournament was just a tournament, right? Like if you had a guy who was like semi-professional show up, like what are you gonna tell him? No, like half the times you didn't even know he was semi-pro and nobody knows who the fuck he is, and then he just runs like basically runs rampant through the whole lobby, like just beats everybody. And you're just like, holy shit, he's really good. But like that's all you had, so that's just what you did. That was like your unit of metric. It's like, well, how good am I, right? And I don't know, I was used to that. So it's also because like a lot of times like things, it's like it's not even a case of sometimes like talent or reflexes or something. A lot of times there's just repetition. You just didn't put enough, like as many reps as the other guy, because the other guy's been doing it for X amount of time longer than you have. I don't know. Because like specifically, I'd say in gaming, to some degree, like talent does take you a decent way in, but like without like uh without something like what you gonna call it? Like dedication and like focus and hard work, like you're gonna fall behind. Like talent kind of like just moves your starting line up in a lot of like gaming situations. And in some cases it can actually be a negative because sometimes like being too talented kind of like blinds you a bit to everything else. Like, I mean, you can see it. Like how many people have been really talented in sports, gaming, and they go to the professional leagues and then they do poorly, right? Or they just don't stay in it for the long run. The reason is because a lot of times if you're talented and you're in an area that doesn't give you any competition, it's it's rough. One of the biggest examples is professional sports, especially like NFL and NBA, right? Where there's not really a set minor league scene. You're getting a guy who's been playing football probably since middle school, right? So sixth grade. He's been playing it up until he's like from when he for like so sixth grade, right? He graduates from high school, so that's 6 years. He goes through university, so I think which is a minimum of like 2 years, 1 to 2 years is usually like what it takes for those guys to then get recruited into because there's minimums now because they added minimums for before you can get recruited to at least the NFL. I know for sure. I think the NBA is the same also. But like you have these guys who've been playing the sport for a total of 8 years, right? And they go into the professional scene, and for 8 years they've been really good. Everybody's like, "You're the best! Oh my god!" State level, nationals. You know, these guys they go to university. They're killing it in university. Why? Because it's more or less an even playing field. Even if you're a freshman in university, the guy, the seniors in front of you have only been playing for 2 or 3 years more than you have, right? It's not a huge like experience gap. Then you take this dude and you stick him in the NFL for a guy who's been in the NFL for like 6, 7, 8 years. You now have a dude who literally has twice as much experience as you do. Yeah, he's older than you. That's even worse. Because in professional sports, if someone is older than you and they're still like in the game, it generally means they're good because they have experience. They know what they're doing. It's like I think it was I don't remember, it was like a YouTube video or interview or like a documentary or something. Or there was there was like top professional athletes and they're like, look, most of the times the best like collegiate player is barely on par with some of the worst professional players. Because a lot of times people forget most professional players were top collegiate players. Like Actually, in this day and age, all of them were, right? It's like you bring nothing to the table most of the time. Not everybody is like, you know the LeBron James, right? Not everybody's, you know you can't do stuff like that. It's like that stuff's rare and people forget that. And in gaming it's the same way. I feel like a lot of games, like players, like they think they're really good because they play in like local stuff, or they're playing on like the rank ladder and they're just dominating, and then they go to the professional scene and it's kind of a bit of a reality check. And a lot of those times people don't like the reality check, right? Because a lot of times, especially in video games, that's why I think that like a lot of companies and a lot of people in general don't take professional sports seriously, is because look at the attitude of the players, right? Like a lot of the players that go and be professional gamers are really immature, because at the end of the day, gaming is like an escape, right? Like most people game to kind of like forget about the day, kind of like do whatever. So then when you try to change that to be like a profession, like it can take a toll on the mental. It's the problem Overwatch had. Overwatch's like esports scene struggled because a lot of the players like decided that instead of dealing um with the stress that came with playing professionally, they would rather just go back to their streaming careers, because most of them started as streamers. So, which it was a lot more relaxing, and in most cases a lot more rewarding. And the irony is that there was a lot of like lesser known streamers who went to the Overwatch Pro League and basically kind of just used the Pro League to advertise themselves. And then as soon as they were able to, they just left the professional scene and went to streaming like full time, because it's a lot more of a relaxed it's a lot more relaxed pacing for making money in comparison, because like you have all of these requirements, not to mention, well, I mean, and that's not taking into account the other caveats that the Overwatch Pro League had. There were some, I've heard of some like back end issues and stuff with money and stuff like that. Same thing with like Apex Pro League. There's one of the there's a guy who I used to watch his videos for Fuse back when I used to play Fuse a lot, where him and like two other like people that he knew decided to try out to go pro, and they had some pretty good showings at a good number of like the qualifiers. But then they ended up like quitting going pro just because of how much like shit you had to deal with, like backroom politics and stuff like that. And they were like surprised when they had to pay like out of pocket for traveling expenses to go compete at lands and stuff. Meanwhile, I'm over here, I'm like, bruh, if you look at any other professional scene, that's the same stuff. Like I remember growing up, there was somebody we knew that he was trying to be a professional. I think it was Tekken at the time. It was either Tekken or Mortal Kombat, one of the two. I know it wasn't Street Fighter. That's the only thing I know for sure. But it was like, they would talk to him about like how would it be, and he's like, bro, that shit sucks, especially for fighting games, especially back then, because I'm talking like early 2000s. Like there wasn't a lot of organizations interested in fighting game and sponsoring players for fighting games back then. So if you went to a tournament, it was out of pocket, and if you didn't qualify high enough to get money, you were fucked. Which usually back then, in order to get paid anything, you had to be top 3 minimum, if not top 2, because there were some tournaments where you didn't get paid anything unless you were the champion or the runner up. And it's like you could spend like a couple $100 at the time, because hotel prices were a little cheaper back then, to go to this tournament, and then you come in 6th out of like say 18 players, which statistically isn't too bad, right? You're above average. You're better than what, 12 players? Like you're better than the half. But monetarily wise, you lost. You got nothing for it, right? Like even with the point system, because Tekken and Street Fighter have a World Series version that you need to get points to qualify for. Something like strongman and like bodybuilding also have. You need to go to competitions, you need to place and win in competitions to get points. And then once you get enough points, you can go and compete at the, quote unquote national or world international one. Tekken and Street Fighter have had that, and they've had that for a long time. And it's just like, even if you get points, it's like, and at the time, streaming wasn't as big of a thing. And he wasn't really too into like the YouTube thing. Cause that was the advice some people gave him, like just make YouTube videos of you playing like online matches. But even then, again, back then, like recording stuff wasn't so click easy to do like it is nowadays, right? Like nowadays, you just get OBS, you just fiddle with the settings a little bit, you turn that shit on, and you're recording videos, and you just toss that shit on YouTube. To be fair, like that won't generally do you very good, though. In the fighting game series, like scene, if you're good, that'll get you like off the ground for the most part, right? If you're just good and you're consistently good and high ranked and you're putting up YouTube videos and maybe you do a couple guides here and there for characters you like to play, like that'll get you up and running. Since like the fighting game community is generally pretty dedicated to like checking stuff out. Obviously, if you can put like interesting like commentary over it and stuff like that, and like talk about your thought process while you're playing, because you can do great. It's just like because like in this day and age, it's like to some degree, pro games have kind of gotten to the point that you read about them in like the manhwas and like the and like light novels and stuff, where the player themselves are kind of a brand they're selling, right? Like if you it's Apex alone, and I've had like I don't know how many times like it'll pop up on my feed about like Imperial how like basically anybody really. They're just like, look, if you want to be professional in Apex, fucking stream. They're like, it's as simple as that. Because you need extra revenue, and a lot of these orgs aren't going to sign people who don't stream because you need to bring something more than just, hey, I'm good at Apex. Not to mention, it's like killing two birds with one stone, right? Because the biggest way to get like to be pro in just about any gaming sense is like visibility, right? It's not like, especially in the West, because it's kind of funny because I think Korea and Japan. Well, Japan I think has it for fighting games because I think Tokido started one, like it's fighting game university, so to speak, for like younger players to come in and learn and kind of get better. But I think like China and Korea have like League of Legends ones and stuff like that, where it's like camps set up by orgs to find like young players who have good talent to kind of bring them in, and it's a bit more of a direct path. It's not perfect by any means, but it's at least that's what I've heard about it. I don't care too much because I don't really give too much of a shit about League of Legends Pro League, but it's just like in the West though, like you have to like in order to get notoriety, you have to, or in order to get picked up, you need visibility, right? Which is the main reason, like a lot of aspiring pro players chase rank 1 because it gets their name on the board. Right, it gets their name on people's like watch list. Like orgs are, especially orgs that are committed to like longevity in an esports scene. If they see money in it, they're paying attention to the rank ladders. Maybe not like the head of the org specifically, but they have people paying attention and being like, how consistently are these players entering the top like 10, top 20, something like that, right? And they'll pay attention and they'll look into them and they'll see if maybe they're worth like signing or picking up or if they're interested and stuff like that. Which for some people, it's great. And for other people, it's a little harder because when you're trying to climb the rank ladder for that, you have to like face the pros, right? To hit rank 1. And it's just like there's not a lot of space in some places, especially in the West, for people who aren't good enough to face the professionals, to the known professionals. That's an even bigger like caveat. Like in order to face the known professionals in ranked ladder climbs and beat them. Now, to be fair, League has the clash system, which I think is like their way of getting it to set up to do, which I kind of wish more games had, to be honest. Like I think like TFT I probably would still play if it had a built-in clash system like League of Legends has. Speaking of League of Legends, I don't know if y'all know, but apparently they released a mode that's like Vampire Survivors. Like, I don't know if y'all know this. I only found out today because someone who raided into another stream, they were playing the new mode, and I was like, wait a fucking minute. I googled it. Yep, they made they instead of just making a Vampire Survivors game for like based around League of Legends and then like releasing it, they're like, fuck it, we'll just put it in League of Legends. And I'm like, that is probably one of the smartest, yeah, probably on the flip side, kind of dumbest things I've ever seen. Because I feel like, to be honest, I feel like I don't know if it's a limited time thing. If it's a limited time thing, it might be just there to gauge interest, and then they might decide to make like a game for it. But it's just funny to me. Honestly, the stuff like that is what I say Blizzard is being really dumb on. Blizzard should have made a Vampire Survivors based game based off of like StarCraft forever ago. As soon as that started being popular, they should have like diverted funding and been like, hey, StarCraft, make me one of those and make it good. Because honestly, like out of I mean, you could have done Diablo, but I think like Diablo should just stick to the way it is, and then StarCraft would have been the better way, or the better IP, or just make a new one. Or they could have even done Overwatch, to be honest, because with Overwatch you have like the Omnics. I was about to call them Omnicrons. The Omnics, right? The crazy ones that want to like take over the world, shit like that. Like they have the IPs with the setups and the themes that they could easily make a Vampire Survivors S game, or they could have. Now I think it's like a little bit uh too late in my opinion because there's so many, just so many out there now. So they'd have to actually like, and what I mean by missing it is that like it's not like just free real estate, because if they had done it like earlier, they could have done one that was, not too much more creative than what's in the market and would have been perfectly fine. Now basically if you make us like a vampire survivor style game, you gotta bring something to the table. You can't just copy and paste it anymore. You gotta put some extra oomph into it to kind of really attract people. There's actually one recently that I tried that there's a demo for. I think it was called like Elemental Warriors or something. That it caught my attention because it's slightly different, because you can get party members, technically, quote unquote. You can recruit party members that'll give you like extra stats, and then when you max out the party member, you then unlock them as a playable character, which I thought was a really interesting system. Because it's a bit of a play on like the JRPG stuff. Because you'll have like towns and armories and stuff that spawn that you need to go interact with to get access to some of the stuff. And I thought it was a really interesting take on it, personally. It wasn't anything super revolutionary, but like just a couple of different features of it. Like for instance, how like it takes a lot from like JRPGs where it's just like a skill will be strength based, right? So then it'll be like, oh well, if you obviously then want to get characters that offer more strength, because that way when you level up those characters, they give you more strength and they make these characters like, right. It gave you like little things like that you could like mix and match and stuff like that. That was really really interesting. Kind of made the customization and build making a little more cool. There's also what is it? There's a game. I saw the trailer for it. On see if I can find it again. There's a game coming out that's kind of, I guess if I had to say how, it kind of reminds me of um Eternal Return in a way, like the basically the isometric camera camera view, like battle royale, but it's gonna be it's like PV PvPvE kind of thing. Which there's also another game called Steel Hunters that I might try out at some point. That's also kind of in the same game, in the same vein. I think it's supposed to be like 3 or 4 squads of like 3 players, 2 or 3 players that are on the map, and then you go around like hunting like the PvE monsters, and then you fight each other, stuff like that. But it looks pretty interesting. It's a mech based one. I want to remember the name because it's one that I'd seen the I'd seen like the development of it like a long time ago, and I was like, oh, I'll check it out later. Yeah, Super Vive, that's what it's called. Super Vive. It looks pretty interesting. I'm kind of curious on trying it out. I've heard pretty good things about it from the people. There's been a couple people that I've sometimes seen. Yeah, it's called the Hero BR. Uh, who've talked about it, but they've been under NDA for a long time because they've been really working on it. Problem is that I don't know if they've released yeah, I don't think they've really released any information on it past just a release date, which is supposed to be like later this year, like end of this year, I think, is when they were gonna do an open beta. So I might try that when that comes out. It looked interesting. It's just I don't know any of the information based on like what character like kits and stuff are. That's the only real reason I'm kind of like I don't know if I like it or not. Yeah, I feel like this year is actually like kind of interesting for gaming, to be honest. I think because I feel like this is like probably the last wave of games that kind of got pushed back for like COVID and stuff dropping. Supposedly there was a I saw a snippet of a podcast where where someone was saying that 2025 and 2026 might be the 2 years where we get a resurgence of like the half completed games being released because apparently due to COVID a lot of like game companies didn't really like invest too much into like or publishing companies didn't really invest too much in games that were in the process of being created, and then it seems that they might not have like stuff to push out for those 2 years, and so they might try to just buy up a bunch of games and like basically force release them in like a half complete state. Which I mean, to be fair, it's not like that's anything new. Trying to one up each other, all the competitions seems fiercer. Well, there's definitely been a lot of good games like releasing. Like there's I would say definitely in this last like probably year and a half, there's been a good amount of games that are pretty solid. They've definitely raised the standard. But like the standard was definitely like getting really low because so many games were coming out that were in such a shitty state that everybody's like, bro, if you could at least do the bare fucking minimum, we'll give you money. But now games have been dropping where they've gone, kind of back to like with a more quality time stuff. And people are starting to be like, can't bring shit to the table. Don't be cooking in the kitchen. You know? Like look at fucking Ubisoft debacle with their pirate game. Bro, people tore that shit apart. Quadruple A game my ass. Get that shit out of here. Fucking cause I mean like even if we don't look at the games that are getting like remastered, re-released, ported out to PC, stuff like that, like you got like what is it? The Yakuza games I've heard really good things about. Uh I'm thinking the last like couple of years, right? Like the Horizon Zero Dawn game, the sequel, I've heard really good things about. Another Blade I've heard good things about. Nier Replicant I've heard good things about. Like really high ratings for that. God of War Ragnarok. Like I had the list of names, and then as soon as I started rattling them off, they like disappeared from my brain. But basically, there's been a lot of pretty solid games. Bolt Gun, like there's been a lot of solid games, like on every price range, I would say, like from top to bottom. And I think that if like what that podcast was saying is true, where publishers are going to try to push out like half completed games to fill in their thing, I think they're going to be in for a bit of a rude awakening. Because I think people, well, first of all, like people are broke as fuck nowadays, and with all these publishers trying to push a $70 price point as a standard thing when they're not really giving $70 worth of content, in my humble opinion, uh, makes it a little hard to want to buy games. I don't think I've ever been more thankful that I've had to like learn how to wait for sales and budget shit from growing up to buy stuff that I wanted than I have one in the current gaming industry. Because like I've taken chances. I've bought games day one, right? I bought Grand Blue Fantasy Relink day one. I was ready to go. I had a blast. To be honest, I still need to go back and finish unlocking at least like the 2 Eternals. I really hope they add more content to that game. I hope they don't just like leave it to die, because that game was definitely really solid. Or at least like be like, oh hey, we have like a DLC in the works like for the future, an expansion pack. Kiss on the cheek from the guys in suits as well. Honestly, I still can't get over how like they try to like, if you like, I don't have a real big issue. I do, but I'm gonna say I don't have a real big issue when you're trying to raise your price point. I do have an issue because I'm broke as fuck. But if you're gonna do it, at least have a good excuse. Honestly, like have a good excuse if you're gonna do it, because like, oh, but it takes so much more time to do things with such high graphics, and dumb it down, bitch. 90% of the people can't even take advantage of all this like high def shit you're putting in video games anyway. Like, what do I care that a game can be played in 4K ultra wide fucking 4D chess when my computer can't run any of that? I don't give a shit. I don't care if your game costs $70 because you spent all your resources on adding all this extra graphical bullshit that I don't care about, because my computer can't run any of that. Guess what? Most of your money is going to come from that group of people, as most people who spend a decent money on games don't really have computers that can run shit at 4K ultra wide, stuff like that. Like, to be honest, it's the trap that the gaming industry is kind of like, well, it's the trap the higher end companies have trapped themselves in. Because if indie games have proven anything, is that people don't care that much about graphics, realistically. They really don't. If it's a good game, people will spend money on it, and spend a lot of money on it, and they will play it. Now, there are people out there that they're like, why would I play this? The graphics suck. And it's like, I mean, it's a good game. And they're like, yeah, but I don't want to play the graphics. It's like, just play the fucking game. You don't know if you'll like it or not. Like, and trust me, I am someone who, like, I don't play every game ever. There are games that I'm like, I don't care if it's a good game. I don't like the way it looks. I'll admit, there's definitely been games I've looked at it and been like, nah, that looks disgusting. I'm good. And there's nothing wrong with that. But like refusing to play any game just because it doesn't have like highest definition graphics, it's like, if your main concern is graphics, but then as soon as you buy like a brand new game, you have to go to the graphic settings and turn it down to like medium and turn off like half the shaders, then bro. You're kidding me. On sale more often. Bro, that's the one biggest thing I've complained about, this shift to the digital, because that's probably the worst thing that's happened really with this digital shift, is the fact that it's basically made bargain bin sales non-existent for the most part, because there's no longer any pressure to move inventory, because you don't have to pay for like place to store the items. You put it online. Well, yet, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe give it another 10-20 years and they start charging server space for it, because it's not infinite. There's a lot, but it's not infinite. Not yet, at least. Not unless they start figuring out some more advanced tech, which I mean they might in that time. But like, they have no real incentive to drop the standard price of a game, right? Like what is it? Like the Atelier games, right? Like Koei Tecmo is one of the worst. Koei Tecmo has JRPGs I'd love to play. I'd love to play them. I've heard really great reviews. I don't have the income, and to be fair, I don't think even. I mean, I say this like if I had income, I'd still buy it. My mother gave me a weird look because I was like, if I had money, mom's like, if you had money, you wouldn't do shit. Because the whole reason you even have money now to spend is because when you were getting a paycheck, you saved like 80% of it anyway. I was like, you right, you right, and that is not a joke. That's not a joke at all whatsoever. Like I spent money, like I gave myself an allowance. I think I spent like a quarter of what I made every month. Like I would give myself like about a quarter of my paycheck to spend for like myself on whatever I wanted. Most of the times I didn't even spend all of it. And then like the rest of it would just go into savings. And then if like I needed to, if I needed to do a big buy, or if like there was a couple times, you know, I would spot my parents on some things here and there that, weren't like super crazy expensive, but it was like there was one time mom was like, "Man, it'd be nice if we could have this, but like the credit cards just weren't like it was something on sale that was really good, that was expensive for the house." And I was just like, all right, here, tossed over my card. He's like, you sure? I'm like, just pay me back half or some shit later. I'm gonna use it too anyway. Just fucking put it on the card. Like, but I didn't spend like most of my paycheck. Cause it's just like, I don't know. It's really hard for me to, I don't like spending money. I'm not gonna lie. I like having things, but I don't like spending money to have them. If that makes sense. It's a really weird like brain to be like mood to be in. And I think it's because like my father is very consumeristic. He likes buying things. Like he enjoys the process of buying things. And which leads to him buying useless shit. Like probably about 30% of the time. He tends to buy decent stuff most of the time, but he definitely like buys a lot of useless shit. But he tends to return shit that he doesn't use anyway. So. But mom's very like save money and splurge when she's like annoyed. She'll have a limit. She's like me. I take after mom. Like I'll save money, and then at some point I hit a limit. I'm like, fuck it, buy a game. Just buys a game. Just that's why I bought Atlas Fallen. To be honest, it was on sale for $25, and I was like, I'm buying it because I was in the mood to buy a game. I think like when I get to like a point mentally, like where I'm like mentally like tapped out, for some weird reason, just buying a game that I want to play like just helps me kind of like re-energize myself. I don't know, it's kind of weird. I don't think it's very healthy, but $25 isn't really like the worst thing, in my opinion. I do declare. Playing like PS Plus back in the day, the hopes of being able to get 3 to 5 good games without spending 50. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that's one of the reasons why, there's people that don't like it, but I will always say, like, just grab the Epic Game Store. I don't care how you feel about Epics with their exclusivity deals and whatever. If you're a gamer on a budget, grab the fucking Epic Game Store and install it on your computer because they give out free games once a week and sometimes like every single day. And it's like, oh shit, we're getting roasted. And it's just like you cannot be like it's so funny to me because I know some people like IRL who on one hand they'll complain about having like no money to spend on games, but then on the other hand won't download Epic Games on quote unquote principle. I'm like, shut up. Shut up. Honestly, shut up. You have no principle to stand on. If you're buying games on Steam, you have no principle to stand on. Shut up. The only way you have any principles is if you're buying it from like Humble Bundle. If that. And sometimes barely. Some of those packages are a little iffy. But it's just like, shut up. If you're gaming on a budget, get the Epic Game Store. They give out some pretty good games from time to time. And they give out some like little games. I have Cat Quest 1 and 2, which I do want to do playthroughs of. But they give out some pretty, I like that. Epic Games is probably getting, I think it's like, was it half? I don't know. I haven't done the number check. But I think it's like, it might be half as much as my Steam library. I've literally only bought one game on that account, which is the Final Fantasy game by Team Ninja that they did. That was a little too short for my taste. I did enjoy it, but I wish it was a little longer. But it was It was definitely more in line with their new game plus thing. That's the only thing that kind of sucks about the Team Ninja games. Granted, Neo 1 and 2 I don't think really had the problem, but Wu Long and the Final Fantasy game, I think that's kind of like a little issue they had. Is those games like Neo 1, 2, Wu Long, and then Final Fantasy Chaos, whatever the fuck it's called. I don't remember what it is. Those four games were kind of banking on uh on people doing the new game plus grinds. Like that's their longevity. And I'm someone who like I don't really do new game plus. Like if there's not new story to unlock or new like cosmetics, like if there isn't something new to get from new game plus, I'm not really gonna play new game plus. I don't care. I really don't. That's one of the reasons that like I like my Dark Souls like hours are like sub 100 is because I don't do new game plus. I'll do multiple playthroughs because different skill builds and stuff like that. Like I'll do that. Like I don't really care. And playing through the game again is fun. But like for instance, Monster Hunter, I have like 600 hours I think in World. I think I have another like 300 in Rise technically. I think I have like almost 200. It's either 2 or 300. I don't remember because I have like 100 something on the Switch version, and then I had to play it again on the PC with the expansion. And even then, I haven't finished all the stuff in Rise. But like, and there's no real new game plus. Well, I mean, technically, I guess you could say Master Rank is new game plus, technically, because you fight the same monsters at a higher difficulty. So you could say it's kind of like baked into it. But like Dragon's Dogma, right? When I was looking into it, I came to realize that a lot of the like long playthrough was because people were just like, oh yeah, no, you play through new game and you play through new game plus and you go play the DLC. Like that's technically the order of progression. Everybody's like, that's how you do it. And it's just like, I'm like, do you get anything new for it? And they're like, well, you can kind of get the stuff that you missed out on if you want them. And I'm like, I really don't give a shit about any of that, honestly. Like, you get anything new? Like Nier Automata did it. Like, to be honest, like I don't really plan on playing Nier Automata more than once. Now it's different, right? Because you get different endings. I don't care. I honestly don't. Hot take. I don't care. For me personally, I'll watch playthroughs of people going for all the different endings. I'll watch streams of it. But for me personally, I honestly could care less. Don't really care for the multiple different endings. I mean, shoot, I got the one for 9S like abandoning by accident twice because instructions were unclear, went left instead of right. You know, stuff like that. Like speed around the game, technically. But it's just like, mm. I do have an interest in playing the game, like through. I think I'd probably do like probably try to get two endings, maybe two or three endings, because there's like a couple endings that you have to, like chain together if I remember right or something to get like to actually technically finish the game. I have to look into it again. But there's I'm not like I don't get too crazy about games that have like a crap ton of new endings. Also, Dragon's Dogma, one of my biggest complaints, that piece of shit fucking game. The fact that the person you see in the forced romance scene is literally just the NPC you interacted with the most is by and large probably the single dumbest thing I've ever seen in a game. Because I had my character get freaky with a one guy who I completed like who I talked to the most because you had to because of the story quests. And they're like, oh yeah, no, you love that guy. You want to get freaky with that guy. And I'm like, what the fuck, bro? What do you mean? I'm here because you told me I had to be here. What the? Like, I wasn't expecting to get any romance option because I didn't really care for any of the characters like that. And then they were like, well, we see you didn't really do any of the romance, so we're going to make your romance and get hot and steam. And I'm just like, brother, end my suffering. End my suffering. That shit caught me so off guard. I was not expecting it. think like your endings with New Game Plus available for those separate playthroughs. Good to me. Like the Fire Emblem Three Houses did. Yeah, well, because like Fire Emblem Three Houses, I haven't played it yet. I do want to play it. It's on my list of games to buy. But they had like a pretty interesting take on it, right? Where it's just like the different houses you choose like give you pretty extensive gameplay through it, or because you'd interact with different things and stuff like that. Like that's a pretty good incentive for like to replay through it all to try to get it done. Um, that's a really good approach for doing it. Like you give factions to play through, right? Octopath Traveler technically like kind of like rolled it all into kind of like one. We have the different characters with their different stories and stuff like that. Like there's definitely been really a lot more interesting ways to kind of like wrap players into that sort of thing, especially from like the JP side of things. And it's pretty interesting. Then there's other like takes where it's just like, for instance, like Grand Theft Auto's longevity has come from the fuck it, that didn't miss, should be done. From the online, right? That people themselves have basically made their own game out of it. But like I don't know, I'm not real big on like replaying a game. Depending on the game. Caveat. Couple of asterisks there. Because I feel like I say this and people are looking at me and being like, Path of Exile, motherfucker? It's like, caveat. Because as soon as I said, I'm like, I'm not real big on playing games. And I just sat there and I'm like, bro, I've replayed the story of Path of Exile. I don't know how many times we don't talk about it. On the Steam version, I think I'm like 400 or 500 hours into that game. Like I have on that game. And then I probably have another 100 hours or so on the regular client, which I swapped to. So that way the stop it. Like most of the problems I had with the game aren't really too big of a deal using the regular client. But yeah, I don't know. And that's more of a me thing, really. I think it's mostly just because it was like, yeah, I don't know why I'm like that, to be honest. Because I've played a lot of games where League Game Plus isn't exactly like a uh, a foreign concept. Because I played a lot of like Japanese games that got ported to the West, which is I would say kind of like the game like the gaming sphere that had a lot of like the new game plus like ideology, right? Because I Western game. I can't really think of a Western game I used to play that had like new game plus before like say like Fire Emblem and for sure like well I mean Dark Souls obviously. Demon Souls and Dark Souls was probably one of the big ones that I think first really brought new game plus style of systems to the attention to the West. It's just like I guess it's kind of weird as someone who's played a lot of MMOs, who's leveled a lot of alts through MMOs, who's played a lot of Diablo style ARPGs, which is basically playing your way through the game over and over again multiple times. Though I think part of it is probably due to time. The amount of time it takes me to get to end game in those games is Well, I guess it's because like I like getting to like an end game and then doing something in the end game until I hit a goal and then stopping. Is kind of probably the reasons I can do it. But like with New Game Plus, it's like, oh, I reached the end. What do? Start all over again. I reached the end. What I do? Start all over again. Like people that do New Game Pluses on Firm Software games like multiple times are literally built different. Cannot change my mind. They are quite literally different functioning human beings. I knew someone personally who I think was like New Game Plus 20 on Dark Souls 2. And I'm like, first of all, terrible choice. Second of all, you crazy. My God, look at him. He's so stunning. Bro, this skin is so good. For a free skin, that's so good. But yeah, I don't know. All I know is that recently I've been in a JRPG RPG mood. Actually, I think I've been in an RPG mood for a while now. I've just been kind of neglecting it for the like Apex. And I think part of it was probably just because it's like play Apex, and I've noticed that when I like don't play Apex, my numbers tend to not do so well. But at the same point, I'm tired of playing Apex, and I just want to play what I want to play, so I'm just gonna play it. Even though I don't know, it's mostly just to give myself a break from stressful games kind of situation. And then there's Xenoblade that's like, hey, how about we go for gotcha game system? We take your best girl from you 3 times. Like, don't fucking touch Morag, you sacks of garbage. The wife, bro, they took Morag. Like, to be fair, it was for mostly short bursts, but like, I got so annoyed how often they took Morag out of your party, like back to back. Like, oh, you're gonna fight Zeke again. Morag's like, I'm not gonna fight him. I'm like, I just upgraded your weapons. I can. Oh, I gotta go do this. Morag's not in my party. Oh, I gotta go do that. Morag's not in my party. I can't even go do the side quest because Morag's not in my like. Stop it. I don't. That's one thing I don't like. I don't like when like a JRPG gives you a character and then doesn't let you like use the character due to story reasons. I'm sitting there like, then just don't give me the fucking character until you're done with it. Like, just don't give me the character until you're done. Then it's kind of just the way I look at it. I don't like the constant like take input out, take input out, take input. Like, ugh. But to be honest, so I bought Atlas Fallen right because it was on sale, and I am a sucker for like comeback stories for game companies. Honestly, like through and through. If it's a game, even if it's one that I don't really like care to play, like I'm always rooting for it whenever they're kind of like they're doing pretty poorly, and then they kind of like bring it back. And like Atlas Fallen seems to be doing that, and then like Wayfinder seems to be doing that, and I kind of want to own both of those games, but I think I'll buy Wayfinder a little later. And it's just like, like I'm a sucker for those types of games. Oh, like Diablo 4 is like slowly doing better, which is nice. I know a lot of people want Diablo 4 to fail because they don't like Blizzard, but to be honest, like I think it's better to wish change upon the company than to wish failure upon like projects that people who have nothing to really do with the problems in that company have spent a lot of time working on. And stuff like that. Granted, though, we'll have to see like what happens with Activision Blizzard after the whole Microsoft merger stuff like finally settles down, and it'll probably take a couple of years before we see any difference, if we see anything at all. I don't know how they're gonna handle the like production pipeline for like World of Warcraft and stuff like that going forward. I will say it is slightly worrying that like Microsoft is buying up so many like gaming companies. They're buying up a lot of like the little guys that do really well. Though to be fair, part of that also I feel like has to deal with the company itself being like uh uh kind of just be like, ooh, money. So I think there's been a couple like smaller studios that have kind of been like, no, we're good. Which I think like more studios need to kind of like stay in, like kind of stay in their mojo that they got. Also, beautiful. Oh my goodness. Shouldn't have. What's up, Fox? Welcome in. How's your day going? The Rizzler. Getting your Riz out there? Goodness gracious. Do you have a proper license for that, Riz, sir? You have to make sure that it's not expired. It's in regulation. meanwhile, my Riz stare, blink, blink, and then be like, "You gonna tell her she knows Morse code?" And I can go to. They honestly need to like do something else for next Guild Wars. 2 Guild Wars in a row where a dodge buff on the boss is more than enough. This better not just be like a permanent gimmick from now on. That's such a boring way to fix a problem. Oh, And tomorrow is either going to be really nice or I'm going to die because it rained like almost all day today. It's really humid outside. And so it means either tomorrow's gonna be kind of cool, or it's going to be so hot and humid that I'm going to wish to cease to exist. And usually, with the way it's been the last couple times it's rained, it's probably going to be B. So if I perish, fight the weather, avenge me, fight the clouds and the sun. Oh, we got 100,000 honors this time. I wonder how many we'll get at the end. Man, 20 steps of battle plan. Step 1, buy a rocket. Step 2 through 19, do preliminary tests for seatbelts to strap self to rocket. Step 20, shoot myself to the sun to end its tyrannical reign of heat. Mm-hmm. Oh, man, I didn't realize Zenless released next week. I was so focused on like the other, like the actual PC games. I wasn't really paying attention to the gacha games too much. I didn't even know it was in July. I thought it was like, to be honest, I thought it was like at the end of the year. I don't know if I'll play it too much though, considering it's probably not gonna have a skip dialogue button. So you know, just saying. To be honest, I think I might do a couple more and then wrap it up for the night. My main plan was just to get enough honors to get the costume, and then we'll just pull all of our boxes and then see what we get. Probably won't stream Grand Blue tomorrow night or Friday night. I don't know what I'll stream. I might just stream Xenoblade like all day, both days, just to try to get more progress done on that. But we'll see how I feel. Those things I started just getting a headache out of nowhere. I've been drinking a water, but it's just when it rains, brain does not like you. Also, I woke up a couple times last night. I haven't had like a night where I've had like a full sleep in the last couple weeks. I keep waking up like a couple hours after going to bed. No, Lich, please. Never mind. Lich redeemed herself. All right, do this one, and then we'll do the token pulls, and then we'll call it for the day. I do need to play more Apex though. That's gonna be a bit of a issue because like what's probably gonna happen is I'm gonna do First Descendant next week, and then I'm probably gonna play Apex on Monday and Thursday. I might play some over the weekend too, just to get some of the missions done. And then the last 2 weeks of the season, I'm probably just gonna play Apex during the day stream until I finish the BP, and we'll play Last Epoch at night, and we'll move it towards the flip it into the day stream whenever we finish the BP. To be fair, like realistically speaking, I don't really care too much for the BP in this season. I think except for like maybe there's like I think there's a sticker or something. But like, yes, I know it has the 30/30 reactive skin. I don't really care for it. It's like it's all right. Yeah. One of these days, I will get this. I think if I'd been playing since the first day, I probably would have gotten the extra 1,000 crystals. Oh well. Now I just have to wait and see how expensive the next stage for the costume is going to be. And now we're going to do a lot of clicking. And that, mostly for these first few. Actually, I should, no, I should actually do the full draw. Because there's crystals in these, but there isn't crystals in the following ones after. And it'll be a while before I get all 90, so there's no real point in trying to be frugal. Plus, I have like too many fucking tokens. I kind of wish it would just like auto put you back to this menu whenever you reset the Dropbox. Especially because you have the change item option there. But I'm assuming it probably has something to do with the way it loops the info. I just don't understand how this. Well, actually, it might be a thing that they have to show you like the drop box like stuff that's available. To be fair, I also could have done this at the end of every day to kind of make this a little easier on myself, but too late for that now. Mm. I need to remember to open the chest of good fortune too. I was actually gonna forget about this. Made safe during APEP. To be fair, I'm probably just gonna do the mixtapes. Whenever I do the grinding, I just do mixtapes. Hopefully, it's not so bad. Jimbo was saying, I was talking to Jimbo last night when he was streaming, and he was talking about how like it seems like matchmaking's kind of gone back to the way it was. So hopefully it'll be a little better. Nice. We got another 14 because you get 10 from the missions, and we got another 14 from doing Nightmare 95. And you're guaranteed one of these for every box, so that's really nice. We got an extra 24 of those. Oh wow, shit. I didn't expect us to get it this soon. Because we have a lot of them in here. We probably have another like 10 of them, 10, 11 in here. Because we have enough now to, when the axe drops to, whenever the axe gets added, we can fully do the axe. Like the next Guild Wars has to be either water, fire, or earth favored. Like I doubt they'll make it. Like it's definitely not gonna be wind favored. If I had to go by assumption, it's probably gonna be fire favored. Because it's probably gonna go fire, water, earth, wind, and then just go in that loop. I think that's the loop that it usually does. But we'll see. I should have auto reserved those, so I wouldn't have to worry about this. What's that clicking? I'm doing this now because if I don't do this now, I'm gonna forget, and then they're gonna disappear. It'll be a waste. Oh, I only got 30 summons. Unfortunate. Oh, well, actually, the rest of them are probably like in the other one. All right, but that is going to be it. But yeah, that's the general game plan for the probably for the next couple months. Starting on next Tuesday, we'll be playing First Descendant during the day, mixing in some Apex to try to get the BP done. On the 9th, we'll transition in some Last Epoch because of the new update, and that'll probably hold us over for a while until Path of Exile's new league starts, like towards the end of July. And then after that, we will continue working through my backlog that I have. And I thought I saw something for a mail. And hopefully finish up Xenoblade, and then from Xenoblade, I'll do Atlas Fallen, play through that, and then kind of just bounce back between my Steam, my PC backlog and my Switch backlog. But yeah, so thank you everybody for watching. I do appreciate it. Don't forget, feel free to stop by the Discord, say hello if you haven't already. But if it's a day for you, have a good day. If it's a day for you, hope you as well. Stay safe, stay hydrated, and I'll do see you again in the next one. Bye bye.